Hey everybody, and welcome to Stock Abilities. I'm going to be covering ThinkorSwim scan filters for day trading in 2020 and beyond. You can utilize these for just about any kind of, filtering if you're doing day trading. And then you can follow it up with charts, stuff like that. Make sure to watch through the whole video to get through the whole impact and share below in the comments below your own personal filters that you use and which one you like best that I suggested in this video. But we're going to start it off here with a pretty simple one that a lot of people probably are not aware of. It's my own little custom scan here for a short sale restriction. What's short sale restriction? Well, essentially it's when a stock triggers below a certain percentage, aka 10%, during a trading day, the day of and the day after are both limited for shorting. Usually that forces a short squeeze, and not going to get into too many logistical reasons as to why this is the case, but this is an ideal filter that you should be utilizing when you're day trading. Most recent big company that hit short sale restriction as of this video was Tesla. Tesla hit 10% down and then it rallied the whole next day. Statistically speaking, the larger the cap, the more likely it is to bounce. Most cases between the 12 to 15% range is when you're going to start seeing a little bit of a bounce on those tickers. Pretty straightforward scan here. Percentage change -15% and -9%. That way you hit both the short sale restriction and you hit a bit of a selling pressure too from those that are fearful. And then at that lower, closer to 15% down point is when you'd want to potentially buy, assuming that you're not buying into something like, bankruptcy or anything like that sort here. Lots of different tickers that you could have chose from. Obviously, as I said, you want to focus on the larger, big cap ones and assume that they're not down based on, any reasonable news like bankruptcy, etc., because then that's selling pressure more than that is just shorting pressure. Obviously, you want to sort by a certain amount of volume too. You don't want penny stocks like this here. You want actual volume, but you want an actual share value too. So then you sort them out like this here. So if it has low volume, 4 volume, obviously not worth it. 527, obviously not. Now this one here, although it's a penny stock, it might be worth it because it's 10% down and it had a lot of trading volume and it might have triggered the, I'm not sure if it hit 10% down at any point, but if it did, it triggered the short sale restriction. So that would have been an ideal one to play. Not much else in regards to that aspect here. We're going to jump on to the next one here. Just another simple, straightforward one here. I don't know if you guys are familiar with crossovers, but I have a simple 50 over 200 crossover. Obviously, a lot of these can be kind of momentum chasers. Once they cross over this point, technically, they tend to run and have a little bit more of a continuation. IT here, Allegiant Travel Company, Medtronic would have been good to play. It's kind of a continued run up here, and I'll show the charts here in a second. Let me back over here. MDT, as you can see, did the crossover, and then it just kind of continued up since that point. Just wanted to show a quick chart there. And then obviously you have, let's see here, LGT, ALGT, let's see here. ALGT, kind of a similar thing, crossover, a little bit of bounce. Obviously the volume not as good as MDT, looks a little bit choppy on those bars there, but just as a quick reference of, plays you could be playing via just shares even. You don't even have to necessarily be an options trader. And we're going to jump, crossovers, very bullish, a lot of resistance. They've been trying to cross over a moving average for X number of days. That's why this indicator, or this filter, is rather a very viable one to be utilizing for your trading. Jump into another one here. Very basic ones here. You have an unusual gap down. So you're thinking, well, this stock took a sharp dump. Is it worth getting into? For any of these, probably not. Penny stocks, not the best idea to get into gap down stocks. They're likely gap down for a reason, and not necessarily seriously heavy shorting, but likely more just heavy selling pressure. A lot of these companies are pretty worthless with their trading valuations. But if any, larger cap companies show up in this kind of list and they're just heavily gapped down right into the open market, that's why I have it on the side here. Usually a good quick reference trade point here that you could say, well, this one gapped down very weird. Now, on the flip side of the coin here, for those that are gapped down that you might want to chase on the run back up. But here for the unusual gap up, this one could be played kind of in a multitude of ways. You have a gapped up stock, so you're thinking, well, it might be too late to be chasing, but depending on the news, you might be able to scalp some momentum on the way up. Like with Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings, you would have noticed the gap up at the early morning, and then you cross-reference that the stock had news basically that, and you can have the quick news here, that it had basically an update or an upgrade. Barclays says it's time to buy cruise stocks, 925. Then upgrade ran it all day. You probably wouldn't have necessarily been looking at that ticker, but because you have the gap up scanner set up here, it's pretty straightforward. This is a filter that actually comes with TD Ameritrade's ThinkorSwim platform, so it's not a custom scanner or anything like that. Tech Continuation is my own little custom scanner here. It's just like a mini moving average baby crossover. Might be viable for day trading, maybe not. Kind of a mixed results there. You have to kind of cross-reference the news and cross-reference the ticker. Not always the best one to utilize, but if you can't find anything else, this is one I usually fall back on to see that maybe it might continue into the next day for continued momentum. So this is more like you see it up a little bit and you see a crossover and you're thinking, well, it might have another continuation into the next day. So these might be plays that are good for into Monday on a continuation on an upward motion or a downward motion, depending on the kind of crossover that it did. Going a little bit further here. Let's see here. Covered the unusual gap up, down, tech continuation basis, basics. Yeah, I can do this one. The Bollinger Band, basically, kind of quick reference of different range of the pressure that it might have on an upward or a downward motion. So if it hit a certain trigger point for that Bollinger strain, it's like going to pop off of that, and that in turn results in a squeeze back up or a squeeze back down. These are easy ones to follow and utilize on a day-to-day trading basis. This is all the scan filters here. Not much else to go to in that regard, and explanation-wise. I have some other variation ones that are, different Bollinger ranges that tested strain. I mean, there's other ones you could be utilizing, percentage change gainers, losers, kind of somewhere with the gap down, gap up. I like the gap down, gap up better. You can follow just upcoming earnings plays. If you wanted to you see a big tech company that might be reporting soon, and see if it's viable to get into as of that date. And you can filter it and you can load it up into your own little charts here, sort of like what I do with my charts. Cover this in another video more expansively, but you can preload that list right into there. Pretty straightforward here. Let me let this load for a second. And you can just load the symbols onto there, with those exact scanners, whatever, what have you, and you can load it right in there. You can load it by a lot of different things. Like if a lot of companies got downgraded recently, you can load that right in. Downgrades and upgrades, pretty good to watch. Downgrades, you can find potential swing plays to go back up. Usually when they're downgrading a stock, it indicates that they're adding to their position rather than trimming it. It's a way to create an entry for them for a longer term. This isn't always the case, especially on the lower cap stocks, but in most cases it is. You see an analyst upgrade, usually good for a day trade on the way up, but in a swing trade it usually trends down. A good example of this recently was that I think it was Roku when it got its Peacock deal. It got upgraded a lot, at its very peak as it was running up. They were trying to push and run the stock up as high as they could to unload a good significant position and trim it on that way up, and then they dropped it $10-15 into the following days. Then you have post-market and pre-market movers. You see a big move in the post-market. After hours might be news. Pre-market might be news. Good to watch. And these are just different indexes that you could be utilizing, but too vague. If you want to follow specific sectors, you can load them right into the grid. Pretty simple here. What I do with the color coding here, I know I didn't explain it in this video, but I did explain it in another one if you want to check that out in the videos in my Stock Abilities channel. But essentially, these are color coded based on different indicators like golden crosses and how big it's moving, and if it's a light red or light green, a lot of different color coding that makes it easy to watch and utilize like that. In a quick day trading setup, you can load those particular, if you wanted to watch a stock in particular, you can have your own little flexible grid setup with Bollinger and momentum and all that kind of stuff. That's my day trading setup there. And then we're going to go back to the scanner here. Let's see what other ones I can cover for you guys here. Abnormal volume, kind of an iffy one, but I guess it's worth showing in there that if you see that it's getting an unusual volume more than it usually gets, might be an indicator of an upcoming news potentially that someone's buying in, anticipating said news. So it might be worth watching some of these tickers, but that's kind of more of a last resort scanner there. Gonna jump into a little bit of an option scanner filters aspect here. Obviously, the most important one that you'd probably want to watch is the implied volatility. Let me scroll this down a little bit. I personally like between like 30. Well, yeah, not that I have implied volatility. And, within a week of expiration, and it'd pop up some results here coming up of different kind of option contracts that you might want to watch and utilize. This isn't exactly pulling up the best of results, but the point being is you want to search for the implied volatility within a certain range, 30% to 70%. The higher the volatility, the more risky it is when you're trading options, or more risky it is when you're trading even just shares, because that volatility is indicating that they're putting a lot of pressure on that to continue to go up, and it's likely not going to have that continuation. Not going to go into too many details about that aspect, but I believe that summarizes mostly what I wanted to cover in this video on the different scanners and things like that. Just a quick rundown of everything that I've mentioned. Basically, unusual gap ups, unusual gap downs, tech continuation basics, short sale restriction, one of the bigger ones that I like to utilize. That's why it's on the left there, as you can see. Yeah, if you wanted to add these gadgets, if you're watching this and didn't watch my other videos there's a little plus sign on the bottom there, and you just click add gadget, and then you click the watch list. Then you load that particular scanner right up, so when you open up ThinkorSwim, it'll pop up right there. And of course, the live news at the top here is very important to utilize too. You get a quick look at whatever headlines, of whatever ticker, whether it's in CLH or, what have you. NVIDIA, even, for example, and you can see what the latest news on that is, at least through ThinkorSwim. And you can see that, ThinkorSwim says that NVIDIA had an upgrade as well. Conveniently, but this just covers a lot of broad range different scanner filters that you can be utilizing into 2020 and beyond. If you want to recommend any other ones, feel free to share them in the comments below. If you have any other questions or want to see more input in regards to the different scanner filters that I utilize and all that kind of fun stuff, make sure to comment below that, and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And thank you for listening in, and have a great day, guys.